I've just been watching a very interesting interview with Alex O'Connor and Justin Brearley talking about God and talking about atheism and the decline of new atheism. And Justin Brearley brought up this really interesting point within it about this atheist bus slogan on the side of buses that said back in the day, there's probably no God, so you can just stop worrying about your life and enjoy life and so on and something like that. And I was thinking, yeah, like really nothing's driven me back towards believing in God actually more than the new atheists. Now that I think about it, I mean, I used to be a huge fan of Christopher Hitchens. On many levels, I'm still a fan of Christopher Hitchens. I still admire his wit, his intellect, his clear mastery over writing, and I love his books. But and he's this great personality, obviously, isn't he? He's this great figure of personality and wit and charm and everything else that I think a lot of people do aspire to be as writers. We aspire to be like that, very debonair, very urbane and very witty and charming, as a public intellectual figure and all these sorts of things. And yeah, a lot of people were I think more convinced really by the Richard Dawkins sort of level of arguments and the Sam Harris arguments. And I think religion has sort of come back, and I think seen through more of a pantheistic lens. I've managed to justify my faith and justify belief in at least the existence of Jesus of Nazareth and so on. And it's caused me, to look more at the historicity of the Bible, and to even think about like things like Noah and the flood. And we know that at the end of the last ice age there would have been a lot of flooding and so on and so forth. And even seemingly such ridiculous things as Noah and the Ark does sort of come down to, well, people would have been wanting to preserve their livestock species, the genetics of their livestock, was selectively bred over goodness knows how many generations at that point, or centuries or millennia even. But they probably would have built a huge boat if there was a huge flood, which there probably was, to protect, if nothing else, the livestock species. And the Bible can be seen as just really a collection of cautionary tales, or a collection of interesting stories, each of which tells us something about the human condition. And a story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, that tells us, about prohibitions, doesn't it? It tells us about what prohibiting certain forms of plant life, or vegetables, prohibiting anything really causes us to do. It causes us to want it all the more, obviously. And I think, you needn't, obviously, as say a Christian, which I am, you needn't take a literal interpretation of the Bible. You needn't take everything, you need to take everything with a pinch of salt. Never abandon your skepticism, I wouldn't have said, about anything, and try to find rational justification for your belief. I think that's really the path towards true faith and true integration with the spirit of the divine and the Holy Spirit, if you like, whatever you want to call it. And I think I found that through equally my scientific learning and engagement in, reading of religious texts and religious thinking and meditation and spirituality and all these sorts of things that play into, my life and my journey through life. I mean, I think on a level, when you get delight out of something, it affects the spirit, doesn't it? What do we mean when we say the spirit? We say the soul is the spirit, or the self possibly is the spirit. And we have this this phrase, to be in good spirits, to be happy and jolly and merry. I think the spirit represents something like the psyche, does it not? Or the mind in any given moment. And when we're feeling good, we are in good spirits, and our spirit is healthy and happy. And that's what we really want in life. We want to be happy and to lead good lives. And I think a belief in God does allow us to lead a good life. And when I say in the pantheist sense, what I mean by that is this idea that God is the universe. So it's God sending floods and so on, but really it's the universe sending floods and so on. It's the universe destroying Sodom and Gomorrah. And you can look at the story of Abraham in a very different way. So God is speaking to you inside your head and telling you to do things. well, we have places for people like that, like more secure versions of actually where I am at the moment, for people who follow orders from voices in their heads, and so on. And we do hope someone does stop the Abrahams of this world in time when it comes to the likes of Isaac, and prevent them killing their sons and so on. And yeah, cautionary tales, like there's a lot of those in the Bible, and a lot of a lot of what's in the Bible that needn't be taken as literal truth. But even the stuff in Genesis about creation, like a lot of that is oddly enough literally the truth. They predicted sort of firmament, which I do sort of believe in terms of an ether and so on that surrounds all massive objects, including stars and galaxies and so on, made of electrons, which is what I believe in. That's my personal belief about cosmology, and a theory that I've tried to advance in physics. But yeah, I mean, beyond the firmament of our solar system, above and below is water. That indeed is the truth because of the Oort cloud and the Kuiper belt, and it wouldn't have been, random sort of desert illiterate types writing the Book of Genesis. The Book of Genesis and its progenitors would have been written in a highly advanced civilization, probably in ancient Babylon and Assyria, and it would have been translated into ancient Hebrew from other languages before then, and you get the effects of stories being chopped and changed and different cosmologies leaking into the same text, and all these sort of problems that come with translation and mistranslation and retranslation, and different politics affecting different translations of holy books and so on and so forth. So it must all be taken with an understanding of that, and an understanding of the context within which certain texts were written, and just how ancient the traditions are we're dealing with, and how many permutations each text has gone through over the many years that it has been in development and has come down to us in the end. And to ask questions, what is the Bible, for instance, or what forces gave rise to the Bible as extant in our literary history. Things like that we have to take into consideration, and not just read the Bible, and not just have one book on our bookshelves, for goodness sake, to read loads and loads of different books, to read books about the Bible if we must, to read more books about Christianity, and read the works of theologians like St. Augustine and Thomas Aquinas and so on, and read non-Christian literature by all means. I don't think anything in Christianity suggests that we should just limit ourselves to Christian literature. And I think by all means, or is it like, are those the texts of witches and so on, and get into these dreadful kind of categories and ways of categorizing people. I mean, I wonder what the etymology of the word witch is. Is it just something like sinner or evildoer or something like that? And it gets twisted by fanatics among Christians and Christian fanaticism, which is really what the new atheists had a problem with, I think. They didn't have a problem with Christians or Christianity in general, and they also accepted. I think that they were never likely to defeat Christianity in general, but it did seem to be their stance. Religion is the enemy. Religion is the bad thing. Like, well, no, it isn't. Religion isn't an evil scourge of the world. A handful of little old ladies who all happen to be Christian helping out in a soup kitchen, for instance, with the homeless, that's not hurting anything or anyone. That's helping. They're not strapping bombs to themselves and walking into crowds of people. They're not blowing up World Trade Centers and so on. What you really have a problem with is Christian fanatics, and people who the majority of their own faith consider them heretics anyway, and consider them poor examples of, say, Muslims or Jews or Christians or whoever. And on this sort of cultural level, and Islam, by the way, is as deeply rooted in the Islamic world, I think, as Christianity actually is in our world. And we say, oh my God, or Jesus Christ, when we stub our toe or something. And, it's at that level as well. And we still have, well, some people still go to churches, but we still have religious holidays. We still have Easter, we still have Christmas, we still have all this sort of stuff. And, if God is the universe, well, why not believe in the universe then? If you take as your postulate that God is equal to the universe, a whole lot about the Bible starts making a lot of very good sense. And it's, I don't know how best to describe it. I feel better. There we go. I say I believe in God and an afterlife. Why not that as well? A place where we go to where if we've done good in our lives to earn it, we get a good afterlife. If we've done shitty things and terrible things in life, either we get punished in life itself, or we receive punishment at the point of death via some horrifying dimethyltryptamine, which is what's released at the point of death in our brains, trip of some description, whereby we get roasted in the fires of hell or whatnot. But we must. I think, well, the best thing to have said is we must temper our religion, so called, and that when it comes to defining what personal religion is, that's a subject for an entire video or an entire essay. When it comes to tempering our religion, we must temper it with a very diverse education, I think, or the most diverse education possible. We must seek actually yet to become polymaths all in our own right, masters of many different skills, with far-reaching knowledge. We must stop kettling ourselves and pigeonholing ourselves into these little expert categories. Where I'm an expert on, I don't know, quantum cryptography or something, and that's just their one sphere of interest, and we don't know much about everything else. And as ordinary people, we can do that to a very great extent. It comes down to choice of books that we read. We must read books. That's really it. Like, everyone can read books. I was just too lazy, or you don't have the will to, or you're afraid it'll be too hard. I find reading books hard. Very few people lack the ability to be literate. You're probably not one of those people, fortunately for you. So, I just picked up today 2 more books of poetry, Seamus Heaney and Andrew Motion, that I like. I'm working my way through Midnight's Children, which I've never been able to finish, and no one else has, as I understand it. Got Ovid's Metamorphosis there, a little book on science. I try to read as much as humanly possible, and I read a huge amount online as well, and I try to educate myself in a huge array of subjects, and appreciate the creation, the creation that we exist within, and it's an awesomely powerful thing in its own right, and but if the creation itself didn't at least include the power of God would therefore not be all powerful. You see what I mean? Or the power of creation itself must form part of God's power. Otherwise, God would not be omnipotent. So God is hiding in plain sight. It's as clear as the nose on your face that God exists. Once you accept the postulate that God is the universe, once you accept pantheism. And the logic via Benedict Spinoza or Baruch Spinoza, whichever you prefer, is as tight as a drum, basically. It's a more or less irrefutable argument, the argument for pantheism. And panentheism, panentheism just states that we all have consciousness. Do we not? We're all conscious living beings with free will, I think. So, it seems that God does have awareness, and we all form part of God's power. It seems that God does have self-awareness and awareness of his own power, exists as a conscious agent within the world, and hence is interventionist, since people intervene in one another's lives and perform actions that have consequences for other people and their lives. Hence, God's power does manifest that way. It manifests through us, and that's just another way of saying, the universe has agency. Which, a lot of new atheist types will say, oh no, it does not. On a level, of course it does, because we exist and we impact things, and animals have agency as well. And animals have free will, most of them, I think. And, you say inert matter. Most of the universe is just inert matter. Well, what do you mean by inert matter, for one thing? Is it matter that sort of does nothing? I mean, the planet Jupiter still has storms on it, still swirls around. There's matter in motion, a lot of it. They'll say, oh, but that's not conscious, though. Like, well, okay, that might not be conscious. Actually, so far as we're aware, how about that? And what is consciousness in our brains? It's just the swirling of electrochemical activity and ultimately electrons in the neural dendrites of our brain, according to Penrose and Hameroff's theory of consciousness. This orchestrated objective reduction stuff. So, lots of electrons swirling in the sun, for instance, exchanging photons with one another, and lots of noise coming out of Jupiter. You can hear these great tracks put out by scientists of Jupiter's music, of the literal music coming off of Jupiter, and it's very beautiful. The noise of Jupiter, sort of like whale music, sort of like a kind of chill trance electro dub kind of music. It's a baffling, weird, and wonderful, delightful place in which we live, the creation that is God Almighty, and it is worth studying for that reason, and we can learn more about God, and we can study aspects of him, if you like, or her, or it, perhaps. But probably in our lifetimes at least, never come to a full understanding of everything. Good things consist in the attempt to, though, in the attempt to try and always gain a deeper understanding of things, and to try and know everything if you can, or understand the way that nature works and attain enlightenment, which is what that really means. What enlightenment really means is learning and attain knowledge, understanding, ultimately wisdom. And I think whatever leads one on the path to wisdom is something to be sponsored in life, and is something to be recognized as useful. That which pacifies, heals, helps, soothes the heart, and aids on the process towards becoming wiser. I think, more than having like any sort of notion of success in life or anything like this, or to get more money, we should aim to be wiser in life. We should aim for wisdom as opposed to money, and that entails something like true success. I think once we can become a wise person, and or maybe acknowledged as a wise person through genuinely being wise, we would hope, and that girds us against hubristic and animal reactions, if you like, or unthought out or unreasoned responses, or knee-jerk hostility, and all these things which are unpalatable manifestations of human behaviour. I think seeking wisdom in life is like one of the best things, if not the best thing we could aim for, possibly. And where is that path? It's through Christianity, it's through possibly atheism, it's through Taoism, Buddhism, these things, Hinduism, Islam, and so on, and to really get into it deeply, and to try and understand the message of it all, and to not limit ourselves to one given religion, but to understand all philosophy, or to try and do something as grand as that, and have our own individual personal religion of doing so, and to walk the spiritual path towards ever greater shades of enlightenment. I think one could say that such things are worthy ideals, worth aiming for. And if this comes out of me being really an atheist to begin with, I don't think I was ever quite taken in by Christianity, or not in the first place. And I was more a pagan as a kid, with more paganic interests, and I declared myself a Buddhist when I was a kid also. And then I drifted towards Christianity, and then well away from all of it, and towards atheism and the new atheism, and then back again, via paganism, more like to pantheism, and then to Christianity again, ultimately. And loving the notion that Jesus of Christ, I never heard him called that before. Jesus of Nazareth, was a stand-up comic and entertainer, as well as a great speaker and philosopher with a great and powerful humanistic message. So yeah, I think most of what Christianity has done most of the time has been a good thing, I think. What it does some of the time, obviously, and certain adherents of Christianity are pure evil, obviously. But I don't think even the Almighty can help that necessarily by our genes and what we've been exposed to, and evil is being passed down through generations and whatnot. I think, well, it's a topic for another video, isn't it? The problem of evil, or should I try and address it in this one? I'll try and address it in this one. Like, how can you justify evil behaviour? Well, if you're so concerned as an individual agent with free will at the purpose of stopping evil, it's actually your responsibility to stop it either. If this is part of the point. Like, I guess this is the cautionary tale in Abraham, isn't it? In that story, that someone has to intervene when Abraham has the knife to Isaac's throat. And in that case, it's an angel, but who is the angel? That might be a mistranslation of any passerby, really. It could just mean good person or whatever. When, someone's driving a van into a crowd of people, we have to shoot them. That's St. Augustine's logic, basically. And, that's moral thinking on that level. But like, why doesn't the inert so-called universe intervene to help in these sorts of situations? Well, the thing is, God has already entrusted us with the power to protect one another and this planet, so it's sort of up to us to do it, and to do otherwise would rob us of our free will, if you see what I mean. I mean, it's an odd sort of way of trying to unfoot religion, or trying to undermine religious arguments, this problem of evil stuff. Since if you take away free will, and you intervene in every action that's going to be undertaken by free will, you enslave humanity to the point of as being robots, basically, to being clockwork toys that are just programmed. So we're given this thing called free will by God, whatever that amounts to. I guess the freedom to desire what we want, to wish, want, and enact whatever our desires happen to be, and but and on a level, we're not free to desire what we want in the first place. You can't want to want something, but you sort of can want to want something. But I'm digressing slightly from what I mean. God would have to sort of wrap everything in cotton wool and just protect everybody all the time from any kind of harmful thing that could happen to us. Do you see what I mean? He'd have to control all the snakes in Australia from biting us. Had to. It's more or less a way of saying, why can't we go to heaven already? Like, why can't we just be in heaven like now, please, dear God? It's a bit petulant, in my opinion. Like, well, on a level, I think every evil action that could occur to us in our lives, that most abhorrent suffering, that's all justified by the idea of heaven, isn't it? If we get to have whatever we want for eternity, then that amount of pain and suffering that we've had to endure is just cancelled out. And I think by problem of evil, what they really mean is the problem of suffering, possibly. and that these ideas of evil in the minds of atheists could be conflated with suffering in general. Like, why do we have to suffer? Like, well, because you're alive. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can't stop. Again, for taking free will and taking free will away, you can't stop bullying at school. You know, horrible little smirking, nasty bullies some of us had at school. Actually, I later became friends with, albeit to some extent. Can't stop getting bullied at school because they've got free will, and you can't stop the poor souls who encountered Jeffrey Dahmer because Jeffrey Dahmer had free will. But I think what we really yearn for in our hearts is, could God not make it a little less terrible? Could God not make life a little less awful than this, please? But that's our survival instincts really telling us that, I think. And if anything, you could therefore argue if it's survival instincts telling us that, it's God telling us it. That we need to go about improving our lives and improving our environment and improving our societies. And that's something I think that we all share as an impetus. We all feel that way. To, yes, make things better, to improve the world. And absolutely we should, of course we should. And up and up and up and keep going. And lower newer higher pinnacles, as Walt Whitman said. And, we're impelled to do this, as opposed to compelled as such. We feel an urge within ourselves, I think, to improve our own lives, to improve the lives of the people around us. And that's a God-given thing from a pantheist frame of reference, if you catch my meaning. So yeah, we want to end the possibility, of like serial killers becoming serial killers if we can. Prevent pedophilia if we can, and find cures to all our social ills if we can. We definitely do. We frankly have scientists working on it at the moment. To say God gave us, say, child molesters, it sort of is the truth, because a child molester grew up or was molested and had the idea of being one, and therefore as a unit of God themselves, as part of God, right, and albeit evil one, they never had to decide to molest the child. After already having had the idea, they could have controlled their desires and not done something so abhorrent. But we trust also that justice gets meted out upon such people, and the same is true of any criminal, really. And as I understand it, with child molesters, when they're discovered, their lives don't turn out so great. So it's divine retribution, is also a thing, because we have systems of justice that mete out retribution, or social systems that mete out retribution upon one another. And that can even be unfairly, and it can be a miscarriage of justice even. And we get shit wrong, and we don't understand things fully, and so on. But evilness. What is the definition of evil? What is our operating? What is the operant quality of our term? That which is bad. Okay, what is badness? That's which is stupid or ineffective. Maybe that's something that is evil. It's something that is futile or ineffective or redundant or idiotic or unhelpful. Something that doesn't help anyone. Something that doesn't bring joy, satisfaction, health and prosperity to people. That does the opposite of that. Something that weakens people, makes people miserable, makes people poorer, makes people's life of a lower quality. we might determine that those things are evil. So all evil behaviour, all evil actions, I submit, consist in their ultimate futility, as well as what Hannah Arendt pointed out as often their obviousness. As some things are very often obviously evil. But yeah, I think that's the problem of evil. The problem of evil is something we have to stop moaning about and yelling to the whole universe and passing the buck, really, about why does all this evil exist? Why, all these stupid idiots you put on earth with us, God, all with free will, all doing all these evil behaviours. Why the earthquakes? Like, well, you've got earthquakes, we've got a lovely, beautiful earth as well, and you have got devices now for measuring earthquakes and, you know, seeing how hard the earthquakes are when they happen. Maybe don't build houses on a fault line, all this sort of thing, and, you know, etc. That sort of, it's the problem with evil is sort it out on your own. Are you not intelligent enough with your free will and your beautiful brains and your mastery over the planet humanity? So it's sort of a whinge, I think, the problem of evil. It's a bit like going, you know, why, me, it's childish. It's actually asinine. a little bit. And redundant and futile. You know, the bitching about the human condition, human nature, and why stupid people exist and people do stupid things. Why forever? You can find out the causes and prevent the individual from doing it again, one way or another, and, you know, be helpful and try to heal them or whatever made them do it in the first place, and be merciful and kind and try to reform a person, get into, you know, again, to criminal justice applications of this idea, and yeah, or try to prevent it from happening in the first place somehow. If you can think like that, you know. If you can think, you know, there might be fewer street brawls, say, if we had legal cannabis, so more people would be getting high and hence be less violent or less disposed towards violence, which people on cannabis definitely are, and it's a green plant also, so it's a disrespect of religious freedoms to make it illegal. And yeah, that shit, that was brought about by atheism and secularism and the rise of atheism and secularism, the illegality of cannabis. That's why that was allowed to slip through the House of Representatives or whatever it was originally of the United States and the various local court or government elected bodies. Not Christianity to blame for that, atheism, most certainly. So yeah, believe in God, I would. Take Pascal's wager. I think it's certainly best to believe there is one as opposed to there isn't one. A being of certainly all-powerfulness created this universe. I think that if anything created it, yes, an all-powerful being probably did create it. By Spinozan logic, I think it's impossible for us to conceive of this universe, or conceive of this creator rather, as being all-powerful without at least being the universe itself, for the reasons I've explained. So that's why I would believe in the pantheist God, the God of Einstein and Spinoza. And yeah, I would advocate learning as much about God as possible, like the universe as possible, and to basically gird yourself against what it might have in store for you. And to read the Bible as yet a collection of cautionary tales, among many other things, and to learn from that and become wise, and to seek the path of wisdom in life, which I think starts with religion, goes through spirituality towards something which we might, you know, call enlightenment, or to have a stage of wisdom whereby you might be a sage or a great thinker or a wise man of sorts, perhaps even a prophet, or whatever it is, if you write a lot of things down and prophesy. Maybe keep the prophesying to a minimum. But yeah, religion is something very natural. It's something very organic, something very deeply rooted in our cultures. Every culture has religions. I don't think there's been a culture prior to about 200 years ago that was atheistic, of no religion. I think atheism may serve some sort of secular purpose or religious purpose even, perhaps it subconsciously even, puts the idea of God back in our minds, makes us think about God more. And for that reason it has value. So yeah, I don't dislike atheists, of course. But most certainly would consider myself a religious person, a Christian, pantheist Christian, among many other things such as a pagan, Taoist, Buddhist, so on still. And yeah, bye bye bye, that's why I believe in God. Thank you, love you lots.